Thank you, Chairman Udall, and congratulations, Ranking Member Paul, who is my mentee. Did you know that? In the senatorial mentor program, my mentee. So congratulations, and took my advice, and now you're the ranking member. Stillwater, Minnesota is a beautiful city that's between a rock and a hard place. The current lift bridge between Minnesota and Wisconsin is 80 years old and was not designed to handle the traffic that it currently sees on a daily basis. Cars and trucks idle for hours every day along the historic Main Street, even when the bridge is open. And when the lift bridge is raised, the problem multiplies. The St. Croix River is federally protected under the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, which was authored by Vice President Walter Mondale when he represented this state in the Senate, and also co-authored by Gaylord Nelson, who represented Wisconsin in the Senate, and Senator Klobuchar and I revere the Vice President. I think that's safe to say. Now, the National Park Service ruled that they can't allow any new construction in the protected riverway. The lift bridge cannot be replaced because it is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. While the witnesses before the committee today may disagree on the size and the design of a bridge, the fact remains that a new bridge is absolutely necessary, and any bridge would need congressional approval to move forward under the Wild and Scenic River Act. But I want to make it clear that this is a unique situation with unique needs, and that we are not declaring open season on the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. I believe very much in preserving Vice President Mondale's landmark legislation and his intent. I look forward to hearing from all of the witnesses today. I would especially like to thank Senators Klobuchar and Johnson for appearing before the committee to discuss this important issue for Minnesota and Wisconsin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank my colleagues for testifying, and apologize on behalf of Senator Johnson. New Mexico and Kentucky are exquisitely beautiful.
Colorado.
Colorado
is
really
Colorado.
Nice too.
Colorado.
I'm sorry.
Really quite beautiful.
Yes, I was going to say, but actually I think New Mexico is more beautiful than Colorado. No, I'm sorry. I mistook you for your cousin for a second. Colorado and Kentucky are just exquisite states, and we'd appreciate a vote for the bridge. First, I just want to say something about the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, and I'm sorry that the ranking member isn't here. We want to preserve this act, and we want to preserve the intent that Senators Mondale and Gaylord Nelson had, which is to preserve these beautiful, beautiful rivers. And this will be the first bridge that has been built over one of these rivers, and it's really the exception that proves the rule. And I think that's important. I don't want this to be an invitation to override, wholesale overriding of the act, which has done its job for 43 years. And I just want to say that. Ms. Adele, in the National Park Service's most recent Section 7A evaluation explains that, quote, adverse impacts must be eliminated rather than partially offset, unquote, for the Park Service to consent to the project. The lower St. Croix was added to the National Wild and Scenic River System in part because of its, quote, outstanding, remarkable scenic values. Would it ever be possible to completely eliminate all adverse impacts of a new bridge on the scenic values of a river?
That's a difficult question for me to answer without looking at a specific proposal.
Okay. Let me move on. First of all, the 7A section of this bill calls for this process.
Yes, sir.
Right? That Senator Klobuchar and the rest of us have that this legislation is following. This is part of the 7A process, so I want to make that clear. Ms. Adele, the National Park Service also oversees the National Register of Historic Places, which includes the Stillwater Lift Bridge. The Park Service has said it can't approve a bridge, quote, where there was not one previously. Are you aware of that?
I am.
Okay. And the existing bridge cannot be replaced because it is protected as an historic bridge. Given the protections of these different programs, it is the position of the National Park Service that no bridge, this is my understanding, and I've talked to the National Park Service in Minnesota at least, that no new bridge could move forward in the Stillwater area without congressional action. Is that your understanding?
I don't know that we could say that today, sir. Our job really is solely to evaluate a specific proposal and to provide an analysis of the impacts of that specific
I guess my
proposal.
understanding, having looked into this, that officially that may be the case, but basically looking at all the different bridge plans, what I understood from the National Park Service in Minnesota was that no bridge would get a 7A exemption or a positive 7A ruling, but that the mitigation that we're putting in here will definitely help. And anyway, let's move on. In the Park Service's letter to the Federal Highway Administration announcing the results of the most recent Section 7A evaluation, it mentions the congressional process, which is what we're doing for authorizing specific projects in accordance with a provision within the Act itself. In fact, it states that the NPS, National Park Service, strongly supports the implementation of the mitigation package if congressional action is taken to allow the project to move forward. This bill explicitly includes that same mitigation package, right?
Yes, sir.
If Congress is going to move forward with authorizing this project, does the Park Service have any concerns that this bill does not address?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay. Okay. So what I, and having done a lot of research on this, is that this act makes certain that nothing will disturb the nature of a wild and scenic river. We have this unique situation. A bridge can't be built that's not in the footprint of the current bridge. We can't get rid of the current bridge because of the historic nature of it. So we're going to, and this bridge that we're talking about right now has mitigation that you favor, that doesn't qualify the 7A under the technical parts of whether it doesn't disturb the nature of the river, but which under 7A, the legislation as crafted does satisfy 7A and does allow for the building of this bridge.
The mitigation measures that the Park Service and Federal Highways agreed to does not mitigate the direct and adverse impacts of the building of a new bridge. However, it does support the spirit of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act.
Great. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all the witnesses for being here. Mr. Thompson, you're here representing a number of Minnesotans and folks from Stillwater who support a new bridge, but a smaller bridge than is currently being considered. Given the past statements of the Park Service that they couldn't approve any new construction, would you support a congressional exemption to the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act for a smaller bridge to be built?
Yes, but I would also ask, there currently have been 5 bridges built in the St. Croix River, replaced. There's been new construction on 5 different crossings up and down the St. Croix River in the last 20 years. And if no one has, I believe the person from the Park Service indicated that they haven't turned down a proposal that they haven't analyzed, or they haven't been able to report on a proposal that they haven't had before them. So if they haven't had a smaller, slower bridge put before them, how do we know that they would not approve a bridge that is in the central corridor? They have in the past stated that the central corridor is the location that is appropriate for a bridge crossing on the St. Croix River.
Well, my understanding from talking to the Park Service and the National Park Service that's authorized to take care of the St. Croix is that no bridge there in that footprint or near that footprint would be past the 7A, the 7A process. So I believe that the smaller, slower bridge would also require an exemption, a congressional exemption. That is my understanding. Mayor Horiski, in your testimony, you mentioned the fact that the current lift bridge handles more traffic than it was built for 80 years ago. Can you describe a typical summer day in Stillwater and how that affects bridge traffic?
Typical summer day and really a typical winter day is it's a very beautiful town with an enormous traffic problem caused by a 80-year-old bridge. In fact, when you were, even though we didn't plan it that way, when you came to visit our community to look at the bridge situation yourself, you were delayed in the meeting by traffic. And that is very, it wasn't even the summer, and that's a very typical situation. We can have we can probably have over a mile of traffic backing up through town. Creates problems for the city because people are going through local community streets trying to find ways around traffic. So the typical situation that we have is traffic delays, idling cars. The bridge has been hit numerous times by semis trying to get across the river. They're trying to navigate a very tight.
Basically, we need the feeling is that, and I think Mr. Thompson would agree, that a new bridge is needed. And I'm sympathetic, as you know, Mr. Thompson, to the desire for a lower, slower bridge. But I'm also sympathetic with the governor, who has said that if we don't do this now, this is really, he doesn't want to see this reopened. And it is the state, it's the state's and MnDOT, which is the Minnesota Department of Transportation's decision and the governor's decision that they would like to see this bridge there, and that they are feeling that if we reopen this process, we're not going to see one. And that is why I believe that that we are going to need, no matter what we do, we're going to need an exemption to the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, and that we need, Stillwater needs a bridge, and it needs it now, or it needs it to start very soon. But I thank you for your testimony.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, if I could respond to Senator Franken, thank you. Yes, Stillwater does need a new bridge, and it's our feeling that with a smaller scale bridge, because we've already studied such a large scope for this project, I mean, the scale of this bridge proposed is huge, the footprint is huge, and the fact that our smaller bridge fits so intimately within the large scope of the existing EIS, that we feel that a fairly quick order supplemental EIS can be handled in a fair amount of time, a short amount of time, not the 6 to 10 mediation years that everyone is concerned about, but rather that we could turn around a supplement in 18 to 24 months, and that because of the smaller bridge, because of the quicker construction time, we can actually have a completed bridge at the same time frame that we have under the big bridge proposal.
I understand that, I'm sympathetic to that, but as the governor has said, that this is something that really needs to get started before September 30th, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Mayor?
That is correct, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.